Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're all about exploring the lives of, well, truly extraordinary people, individuals who often defied expectations at every single turn.
Exactly.
And today, we're digging into the really compelling story of Honey Wilder. She was an actress, became a genuine icon in the 1980s,
hmm
but her journey, as you're about to find out, goes way, way beyond the screen.
That's absolutely right. So our mission for you today is really to pull back the curtain on this captivating performer. We're going to uncover her, well, surprising entry into a pretty unique industry.
Right.
We'll look at her unforgettable on-screen presence, navigate some of the, significant challenges she faced,
Yeah.
and then map out her remarkable shift or transition to a highly respected career totally behind the scenes.
Okay. And how are we doing that? What sources are we pulling from?
Well, we've really sifted through quite a bit. Fan biographies, detailed film databases, historical retrospectives too, all to bring you the most potent sort of nuggets of insight.
Fantastic. So let's dive right in. Let's unearth the beginnings of Honey Wilder's story. Where do we start?
Okay, to really get her, we have to start at the beginning with her origins. Her actual name, well, it varies a bit depending on the source you look at. It was either Shirley Thompson or Shirley Starks.
Thompson or Starks. Okay.
And she was born November 26, 1950, rural Texas. Some accounts mention Midland specifically, others just say the Texas Panhandle more broadly.
Right, the panhandle. And here's a detail that I think immediately tells you something about her personality early on.
hmm
As a kid, as a teenager, she was described as like really happy and kind. And her first big dream, completely different. She wanted to be a Dallas Cowboys cheerleader.
Wow, okay. Didn't see that coming.
Right. That dream, it didn't happen in the end, but it kind of sets the stage for a life that took some really unexpected turns.
Absolutely, a cheerleader.
Right.
Okay, so fast forward to the 1970s. Shirley makes a strategic move out to the San Francisco Bay Area.
Mhm.
And she wasn't just, drifting aimlessly. She was there specifically to study theatrical arts. The goal was to become a legitimate actress.
Okay, so the acting bug was there early, just maybe not in the form it eventually took.
Exactly. And to support herself while studying, she actually worked in real estate for several years, which I think speaks to a certain pragmatism, a drive that was already there.
Definitely practical.
Yeah.
So she's building this foundation, she's prepping for a traditional acting career, and then, boom, fate intervenes.
Totally. Her entry into the mature film industry wasn't planned at all. It was genuinely serendipitous.
How did it happen?
Well, in the early 80s, she started dating an actor named Paul Thomas. He's in the industry.
Okay.
And it was 1981. Her debut was almost an accident. She just casually visited the set of a film called Little Annie to meet Paul.
Just dropping by.
Yeah. And the lead actress who was supposed to be there didn't show up.
No way.
Yeah. So Shirley, with her theater background and, this natural confidence, she just stepped in.
Wow. Just like that.
Just like that. She performed alongside an actor named Kevin James, important note, not the comedian we know today, but a prominent actor in that genre back then.
Okay, got it. So what happened next? Was it a good experience?
It seems it was. What's really fascinating is the immediate effect it had. It wasn't just, oh, that was interesting. It was apparently a good experience, and the pay was really good. Excellent, in fact.
Ah, the practical side again.
Right. That combination led her to basically decide pretty spontaneously right then and there to actually pursue a career in this industry.
And the name, Honey Wilder.
Came up with it on the spot.
Yeah.
On the very day of that first shoot. Honey Wilder was born, professionally speaking.
Incredible. And this leads to something else that's pretty unique about her start, right? Her age.
Yeah, that's a key point. She entered the industry around 30 years old.
Which, back then, especially, was considered relatively late.
Absolutely. Most performers were starting much younger, often late teens, early 20s.
Yeah.
But this, quote, later start actually became a defining feature, even an advantage, early in her career.
It really did. Because that timing, entering around 30, it coincided perfectly with what many people now call the golden age of adult film.
The early to mid-'80s.
Exactly. And during that period, the focus was genuinely on making actual films, with storylines, character development, surprisingly professional production quality for the time.
Yeah, it was a different era. And Honey Wilder's career didn't just, exist during this period. She thrived. She was really a central figure in this movement that was genuinely trying, to elevate the genre beyond just the explicit content.
So what was it about her that made her stand out in that specific environment?
Well, several things. She had this. The Spanish word used in one source is chisillante, like sparkling, effervescent, a really extroverted personality,
Oh,
plus
yeah.
a really confident demeanor and this undeniable sophistication on screen. Sources kept describing her as having real class.
You can't really fake that, can you?
No, exactly. Because it wasn't something you could just buy or put on. She carried herself, people said, like she owned the place.
Mm.
And that quality, subtly, really challenged the typical perceptions of performers in that industry.
And her age being a bit older than many of the newcomers, that played into her roles.
Hugely. It allowed her to slip very convincingly into roles that really resonated, especially the older woman archetype.
Right.
Think about the types of roles that later got labels like MILF, you know, playing mothers, or these really powerful, sometimes scorned wives.
Any specific examples jump out?
Oh, yeah. Her work in the Taboo series is iconic. Taboo 2, 3, and 4. She played the mother figure in those. And you have films like It's My Body from '85 or Wild Dallas Honey from '82, where she nailed the scorned wife role.
Okay.
And in Private Teacher from '83, she commanded the screen as this sort of matriarch figure.
So she wasn't just fulfilling a type, she was actually acting.
Absolutely. She was really recognized for her strong acting talent. It wasn't just about showing up physically. She brought depth, real authenticity, and emotional range to her performances.
That's interesting.
Yeah, she could infuse roles with both vulnerability and strength, which is quite a skill.
Yeah.
And she was known for creating believable chemistry with her co-stars. Some even said she made them look better just by being in the scene with her.
That's high praise in any acting context.
It really is.
You know, something else I read about was her voice. That became part of her persona, too.
Oh, definitely. A very distinctive voice. Apparently had this soothing intonation that really helped make her a fan favorite. It added a lot to her on-screen charisma.
So recognizable, in fact. Wasn't it used for something else?
Yes. Famously, her voice was used for the Surgeon General style warning that ran before films from VCA Pictures, a really big studio back then.
I think I remember hearing about that. Is there a quote associated with it?
There is a pretty memorable one. You better sit down because what I'm about to tell you is going to give you a stroke.
Wow. Okay, that definitely leaves an impression.
Doesn't it? And she was busy, really prolific.
How many films are we talking about?
Well, the numbers vary a bit depending on the source. Some say around 70 films, others push it over 90. I've even seen counts up to 123.
Okay, regardless of the exact number, that's a significant body of work packed into the 1980s.
Incredible output, yes.
So, given that output and the nature of the industry, it's probably worth pausing to think about the environment she was working in. The challenges must have been huge.
Immense. You have to remember the societal context. There was a massive stigma around the industry during her active years.
Yeah.
It was this weird mix of like cultural fascination on one hand and real social condemnation on the other.
Right. So performers like her dealt with intense public scrutiny.
Absolutely. And often very limited opportunities if they wanted to work outside that specific world. It could be quite isolating.
But she seems to have handled it differently.
It appears so. Despite all those obstacles, Honey Wilder managed to navigate her career with what sources describe as remarkable dignity. She wasn't just passively accepting things.
How so?
Well, she was seen as part of this internal movement within the industry. People who were actively trying to sort of normalize mature films, see them as part of the broader entertainment landscape.
Interesting.
And she apparently supported pushes for better working conditions and more respectful treatment for performers, too.
That's significant. And thinking bigger picture, her work, did it have a cultural impact beyond just the films themselves?
I think you could argue it definitely contributed to the evolving public conversations about sexuality happening in the 1980s.
How did her films do that?
Well, they weren't just simple entertainment. They often challenged traditional ideas about female sexuality, particularly the way they portrayed older women as desirable, as influential, as having agency.
Right, which wasn't always the norm.
Not at all. Films like the Taboo series, for instance, they genuinely pushed boundaries. They sparked discussions about complex human relationships, desires. It added this layer of sophistication to a genre that was, and often still is, dismissed as just simplistic.
It's also interesting you mentioned her confidence on screen, but off screen, she maintained quite a bit of privacy, didn't she?
She really did, which is surprising given such a public and often scrutinized career. People who knew her personally described her quite differently from her on-screen persona.
How so?
Intelligent, warm, thoughtful, Someone with a genuine care for others. Her off-screen self was apparently much more reserved. She valued close relationships, preferred a quieter life. It created this really intriguing duality.
Yeah, the public image versus the private person.
Exactly. And she had interests as well outside the film world, things like reading, writing, even engaging in some charitable activities.
Okay, so this brings us to a really fascinating part of her story, the exit strategy. And what came next? Her second act.
Yes. Around age 40, this is in 1988, Honey Wilder makes a very clear, very decisive choice. She's leaving the industry.
Just like that. Why then?
Well, the timing seems incredibly astute. It was a profoundly smart move looking back. Her departure lined up perfectly with a huge shift happening in the business itself.
What kind of shift?
The industry was really moving away from those golden age productions, the ones with storylines and characters,
Right.
and heading towards much more explicit, less narrative-focused content. Video technology was basically killing the theatrical circuit for these films, and as a result, production values were just plummeting.
So the landscape was changing dramatically.
Completely. And sources describe her exit as just brilliant timing, really reading the room. One note she left before the industry, quote, ate itself alive.
Wow. And how did she leave? Was it a big public thing?
Not at all. That's what's so striking. No farewell tour, no tell-all book, nothing dramatic like that.
Okay.
Yeah. She simply finished shooting her last picture, collected her final paycheck, and then, as one source vividly put it, she disappeared into the civilian world like she'd never existed.
Just vanished from that scene.
A clean, strategic break. And what she did next is, frankly, astonishing.
Okay, tell me.
Well, leaving the name Honey Wilder completely behind, Shirley Starks smoothly transitioned into mainstream film and television.
Doing what?
Leveraging those theatrical studies from way back from her time in San Francisco, she became a highly successful film set decorator and production designer.
No kidding. From performer to behind-the-camera creative?
Exactly. And this wasn't just like a tentative little step. It was a confident, full stride into a completely new and very respected career path.
That's incredible. Can you give examples of her work behind the scenes?
Absolutely. Her early set design work started showing up pretty quickly on TV series like Monsters in the late 80s.
Okay.
Then throughout the 90s, she worked on films like a vampire flick called Midnight Kiss and a TV movie called Twice Upon a Time that once starred Molly Ringwald.
Right, I remember that.
And more recently, notable projects include The Double from 2011 and the Blair Witch sequel or reboot from 2016.
Wow. That's quite a resume in a completely different field.
It really is. And just to underscore her respected professional standing now, she currently serves as the president of the Set Decorator Society of America.
Yeah, president. That's huge.
It's a profound achievement. It really showcases her journey, doesn't it?
Right.
From this unconventional spotlight to a position of genuine leadership and prestige in mainstream Hollywood entertainment.
Absolutely remarkable. So when we wrap this all up, what's the big takeaway from the story of Honey Wilder or Shirley Starks?
I think her journey is just a powerful testament to, well, talent, obviously, but also determination and incredible professional acumen, business sense.
Yeah.
She was a trailblazer in her first career,
Yeah.
redefining roles, achieving significant success in a really unconventional industry.
And
And then she had the foresight, the intelligence, and the skill to make that strategic exit and forge an equally impressive, maybe even more stable career behind the camera. She really does seem like someone who was the architect of her own destiny.
it certainly sounds like it. And her legacy from that first career, does it still resonate?
Oh, absolutely. Her legacy is really cemented by her inclusion in the AVN Hall of Fame back in 2001.
AVN.
Adult Video News.
Mm.
It's the industry's highest honor, basically their Hall of Fame, like a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Okay.
And her work, especially from that golden age, it continues to be referenced. It's held up as a prominent example of that narrative-rich, mature content that, genuinely tried to transcend its basic material.
So people still watch those films.
For collectors, for enthusiasts, yeah. Her films apparently still possess this quality that makes them feel like they're watching an actual actress, not just a performer going through motions.
That makes sense given her background.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you could say she paved the way for future generations of performers, particularly mature actresses, by proving they can not only survive, but really thrive, bringing depth and, yes, that word again, class to their roles.
So reflecting on all this, what does Honey Wilder's incredible journey, both parts of it, reveal about maybe the power of self-awareness and knowing your own worth, really, in any kind of profession?
That's a great question. How did her unique mix of, that class we talked about and her clear commitment to craft, how did that allow her to navigate, even thrive in a really unconventional, often stigmatized industry?
And then not just survive, but pivot so seamlessly into new, equally respected successes. It's quite something to think about.
Definitely. It makes you wonder how those qualities, self-awareness, dignity, strategic thinking, can apply across any career path, no matter how unusual.
A really fascinating life, lots to ponder there for sure.